cloud native, I think it's kind of definitely ensconced and here to stay. But why does it? Why does cloud native as an approach, as an architecture? It has a lot of advantages, but it also means a lot more infrastructure, service data, telemetry data to manage.
Yeah.
So how do you see this kind of new influx of information impacting those companies that are holding on to, for various reasons, legacy solutions, or are in the process of trying to move away from those into a fully cloud native approach?
I think for that, you really have to take it from the why a company's doing this at all, right? And you mentioned there are advantages of it. If there weren't advantages, I think it wouldn't be as popular,
Yep.
right? So, I think this is at a technical level, for sure, this is the way that, enables, in particular, enterprises out there to go multi-public cloud or to go hybrid,
Yep.
things like that. So it's definitely sort of benefits there. But even taking a step back from that, like if you look at why, it's not just the technology stack, it's almost the whole DevOps mentality, right? Like why adopt that? There clearly are advantages to it, right? And if you look at the companies that adopted it early on, which is the sort of tech giants of the world, they use that mentality to sort of react in the services and the products they provide to react in a much faster pace for their customers, right? So clearly there's a big advantage. That's why it's so popular. It's not just the latest fad or anything like that, right? So if you look at it from that perspective, if you look at all that entails, and before we even get to sort of the telemetry data side of things, I think companies are making this shift and are realizing that it's actually quite a big movement, because it's not just a change of the technology stack, it's almost a change of an adoption of a new mentality to software development, which is the DevOps mentality there a little bit. And often it's sort of reskilling your workforce, right? Like you have perhaps, this, especially if you're a traditional large enterprise, you don't have a workforce of folks who grew up in this DevOps SRE model, but they have to quickly sort of change and adapt to it. You look at the changes and the impact it has on an organization, you generally have to be organized in a slightly different way to best perhaps take advantage of this sort of cloud native architecture. And then of course in the technology stack itself, it's fairly different there, right? So if you look at all of that, there's fairly big drastic changes required across the technology stack, the organization, the skill set of things, yet companies are still willing to do it because they see the advantage of it, right? And then if you look at telemetry data in particular, and observability, this is almost the part of the system that tells you whether you're doing this migration so that your products and services can be more effective for your customers. And this is observability is a way to even measure that and even tell you whether that is the case or not, right? So it's a critical part of not just the migration of it, it's a critical part of the solution moving forward. And I think that changes the way companies think about observability compared to how they thought about APM and IT monitoring tools. You look at observability as a far more critical piece of the business than you ever did. And I think that's fairly different now. So the importance of it is very clear. And I think that's understood more and more by companies as they're doing the shift. I think what isn't as clear when you do this shift is how different and what new challenges observability brings that you may not have had when you were using an APM tool or an IT monitoring tool before. And you touched upon that a little bit earlier in the sense that, as you look at these new technical architectures, a lot of the requirements have changed a lot. It produces a lot more data because the infrastructure is a lot more ephemeral now. And again, all of that is to serve the ultimate reason why companies go to cloud and native. So, I think on the telemetry and the observability side, there are these challenges that are hard to simply repurpose an existing APM tool for. And really, we need to sort of look at the problem holistically from bottoms up more than anything else and build the ultimate solution for this new type of environment. And this isn't just true for telemetry data and observability. You can imagine like in the security space, right? We have to completely rethink security for this new of this new architecture stack. We have to completely rethink, the CI/CD and deployment and everything like that. So observability is it is a huge part of that for sure. And I think if we drill in there a little bit, there are particular pain points there in terms of the growing amount of volume of data that gets produced there that you really have to sort of keep an eye on and handle, and things like how reliable you need these systems to be, right? Because again, the requirements have changed. You used to use it primarily to just look at your infrastructure. And now, as you're trying to improve the level of service you provide for your customers, you can imagine sort of increasing your SLA to your customers means you have to increase your SLA for your own internal infrastructure. So the reliability of these systems, for another example, has to be a lot higher than before. So it's almost like a brand new world, or almost any sort of brand new tool for that.
A nice summary would be that this new approach gives you much more information you have to handle, but that information brings you more insights that you can react to.
It brings more insights.
It may seem overwhelming, I suppose.
100%. And the downside of that is, okay, how do I even store 100x the amount of insights, right? Because I'm not willing to pay 100x the cost to go do that. So it's like, clearly there's more value there, but how do I sort of make the trade-off on the return on that investment? I think a lot of companies are really struggling with that right now in the observability space.
Yep, for sure.